Tales from the Terran Republic.
The Zoosh used to be so nice.
Oh gods, I think I'm going to be sick, Detective Freela said as she clamped her antennae tightly against her head. Her superb sense of smell, usually a great asset in her line of work, was overloaded with the stench of blood, viscera, and something else. An acrid chemical smell that seemed to cut through the mucus that was desperately trying to shield her sensitive chemoreceptors. Yeah, this is a mess, Inspector Sean Vance said as he surveyed the scene. 24 life forms, mostly humans, scattered about in an industrial warehouse. He calmly pulled out a multi-scanner and started to survey the scene, careful to avoid scattered viscera and detached limbs. There are reports of rapid multiple explosions from people in the area, Detective Freela said as she also started her scan. I wouldn't doubt it, the inspector said as he crouched and scanned a small metal cup. Terran 45 caliber ACP from the looks of it. There are plenty more of them too, he said as he surveyed the room. Short tactical shotgun casings as well. Too many of both to be semi-auto. Terran, Detective Freela asked. Here. Why not? They are surprisingly easy to get. It's just that most of us Federation types don't use them. Do you think it was humans, maybe Terrans? Doubt it. Or at least it wasn't just humans, the inspector replied. He pointed at a human that had been literally torn in half. I don't know of any humans that can use what did that. What did that? Well, the inspector said as he walked over to a masonry wall with a huge slash across it. He took a stylus from his pocket and scraped the wall, and it crumbled at his touch. We will need the lab geeks to confirm it, but my money is on a modified ultrasonic jackhammer. One powerful enough to do this sort of damage would be big, heavy, and more importantly, the vibrations would be far more than a human could handle. Definitely non-human. He looked at the carnage. Whoever did this could wield it like it was a glow stick. Just look. I see your point, Detective Freela said as she looked at the string of pulverized bodies. The inspector surveyed the scene with a practiced eye. He had been a lawman for nearly 150 years. He had seen similar scenes, but most of them were from the Sol Wars, not on the capital streets. He suppressed a flashback until he realized that it was important. Grenades, he said. What? They had grenades. Look, he said as he pointed to the worst of the mess. He carefully walked over and started scanning. Yep, slivers of metal wire all over. It was hot too. Plasma grenades with fragmentation. What? Do those even exist? Where would they get something like that? They didn't get them, they made them, the inspector replied. It's an old human trick that was quite popular with the Terrans. You get a high-capacity power cell, usually one for a weapon, hack it, disable the safeties and regulator, and then a simple circuit can get the whole thing to instantly discharge, causing a plasma explosion. Wrap it in wire and presto, one plasma frag grenade, he said, continuing to scan. You really need to know what you are doing, though. One slip up and it goes off in your face. Even I wouldn't risk it anymore. I'm too rusty. So, Terrans did this? As much as I would like to say yes, my gut says no, the inspector said. He had plenty of reasons to hate the Terrans, plenty of them. The fact that he and so many other arcology dwellers had absolutely nothing to do with what happened didn't matter to them. Hell, he would have arrested the assholes responsible himself. If there was any court left anywhere in which to give them a trial, it didn't matter. They were hunted down and killed just because they were guilty of being able to pay the rent, or even if they just had a job in one like he did. They were driven right into the clutches of the raiders like sheep to the slaughter. Gods, he hated them, but he had a job to do. He would hate them on his own time. Terrans haven't made plasma balls in a very long time, the inspector continued. If they wanted a grenade, they would just use a Terran grenade, not fuck around with a power cell. Plasma balls are more the providence of insurgents. Terran weapons, Terran techniques. Fuck. I know who did this. Who? Zoosh. No. Yes. This has Zoosh written all over it, even the jackhammer. Terrans don't use those. They use explosives. Sonic jackhammers are Federation mining tools. But the Zoosh, they are so nice. Not all of them, not anymore, the inspector replied. They were fighting for quite a while, plenty of time for the nice to wear off. The inspector continued his scan. The people who did this were experienced professional soldiers, not thugs. He walked over to the doors. They blew the doors open, using Terran detonation cord, he said as he scanned the shattered frame. Then they hit them with the grenades and swept in with Terran boarding shotguns and 45 caliber submachine guns, with the jackhammer taking care of anyone who got too close. These poor bastards probably didn't even know what hit them. The inspector then went over to a knocked-over table and pointed at some bags on the floor. They didn't take the drugs. He then scanned the room again and pointed at another bag on the floor across the room. Or the cash. They were already paid. This was a hit. We are dealing with a mercenary squad. This is bad, really bad. A Zoosh mercenary squad? The detective said incredulously. I just can't get my head around it. Better start bending that noggin. It makes perfect sense. After any war, there are unemployed soldiers. The Zhoosh would be no exception. A group of them join up and start selling their skills to the highest bidder. Hell, even I almost did it after the Sol Wars. Really? Yes, I was all fucked in the head and just couldn't shift gears. I had been fighting for so long, not as a lawman, but just as a killer at that point. Killing was all I knew for a very, very long time. It took a whole lot to be able to crawl out of the abyss. My Martha was what saved me. If it hadn't been for her, things could have been a lot different. These guys, I get it. Nowhere to go, unable to go back, and someone is willing to pay good credits for them to keep on doing what they do best. Now we have a team of professional killers scuttling around the capital, and we only have ourselves to blame. We are going to be dealing with these guys and others like them for a very long time. I still just can't believe it. The Zhoosh were just so nice.
Hitting the road.
You're doing it wrong. I've been doing this for over 60 years, kid. I think I know what I am doing, a somewhat vexed Kalesh said to the red-headed tween who was lounging on top of one of the engines. Well, you're still doing it wrong. The Kalesh turned one of his eye stalks to face the kid. Child, I have been working on these since before your dad was born. Yeah, on that Republic garbage, not a real engine. You are about to get a spanking and don't think that I won. Snap. Oh, God damn it! The tween just started laughing. I told you. Don't you have some scrap to price or something? Mr. Kolvac told me to help. He wants you assholes out of here ASAP. Did you get that potty mouth from him? No, I got it from my dad, the girl said, her lip quivering slightly. Oh, Jesus, kid, I'm sorry. The girl just pointed and laughed. Gotcha! Why, you little shit, Chief Jacqueline said, making quite a rude gesture. The girl just laughed louder. If you insist on being a pain in my ass, then go and get my micrometers and a new ion channel, Jacqueline said as he tossed a broken component across the deck. Do you even have an ass? Miss Smith laughed as she hopped down from her perch and scampered off. Oh, that little bitch, Jacqueline said with a little chuckle. Just like her father, Shelia said with a laugh as she walked up and handed him a cup of Kalesh tea. Yeah, she is, Jacqueline said, wobbling his eye stalks. I miss that fucker. Is that expensive? Shelia asked as she pointed at the cracked ion channel. No more than a few thousand credits, tops. You must really like fucking Jovian ramen. I'm sorry. I didn't fucking realize you were the new fucking quartermaster, Jacqueline said with no small measure of annoyance. Shelia, knowing when the chief was about to go Yellowstone, just quietly backed away. Miss Smith trotted up with a new part in one hand and an ornately crafted box in the other. Here you go. One Type 8 Mark 15 ion channel, she said as she whipped out a tablet for the chief to sign. After all we've paid, you are going to charge me for this, Jacqueline grumbled as he signed the invoice. When I'm able to squat and shit one, I will start handing them out for free. Until then, pay up. Yeah, you are a chip off of the old block, aren't you? Jacqueline chucked. Now hand it over. This is the last one, so don't screw it up. Just hand me the goddamn part and fuck off. Are you sure you don't want me to do it for you? Miss Smith said as she opened the wooden box. Holy shit, tell Careth Vernier scale micrometers. How much do you want for these? You have good taste, Jacqueline said with pride, but they are not for sale at any price. 10,000, Miss Smith asked hopefully. 20,000. Exactly how big is your allowance? Jacqueline asked, as Miss Smith reverently handed him the 6 centimeter. 25,000. When I'm able to squat and shit out a precision tools company, I will sell these. Until then, fuck off. 30,000? She asked as she ogled the measuring instruments. You are far too young to look at anything that way, and when I said no, I meant it, the chief said firmly, then he smiled. But if you stop being a pain in my ass and give me a hand, I might have a Telk Careth Vernier caliper that I might be persuaded to part with. Miss Smith lit up like a Christmas tree. Really? Really? Now install this fucking channel for me. Kolvachksa and Shelia were leaning against the hull of the Tiger, drinking a cup of flavored mineral oil or coffee, depending on the species, and watching a small pair of boots and some wide Kalesh flippers underneath one of the new Juan Seraphim engines. They seem to be getting along well, Shelia said with a chuckle as a steady stream of invective echoed around in the empty hull. Actually, they do, Kolvachksa said with a laugh. She doesn't use half of those words around someone she doesn't like. Why don't we just use fucking Juan power conduits? Miss Smith asked in an annoyed voice. Because we don't have fucking Juan power conduits, Jacqueline said in an exasperated tone. Sure we do. Class 7, 500 credits a meter. Are you being an engineer or a salesman right now? I'm being a not wanting to spend the whole goddamn day trying to get a Terran to fuck a Juan right now. Fine. Get the fucking conduit. Sure thing, Miss Smith said cheerfully and wiggled out from under the engine. Damn, Smith, Shelia said as she sipped her coffee. You certainly saw him coming, didn't you? Hey, the Juan conduit will work a lot better than trying to reuse that Terran shit, Miss Smith said with a grin. Hell, we will even buy the Terran garbage we pull in case someone besides you are stupid enough to be flying around in a Terran space turd. Language, kid, Shelia said with a laugh. And what exactly is wrong with Terran spacecraft? Well, she began. Don't start. Just go get the conduit, kid, Kolvachksa said with a fake growl. He turned to Shelia as Miss Smith ran off. She has some rather firm opinions concerning Juan and Terran spacecraft. I can tell, Shelia said with a laugh. Hey, Chief, need help from a kid now? Fuck you, the Chief said as he crawled out and poured himself some Kalesh tea. That kid has skills, and tiny little hands. With her help, we will get done a few days sooner. Good to hear. Hey, Jacqueline, Miss Smith said as she was measuring some crystals. You guys are equal to the Terrans, right? We are Terrans, kid, but to answer your real question, yes. We and the Republic humans are equal. Any Republic citizen is equal. Nominally, the Chief responded. Then why do you guys get all the shit jobs? What? What do you mean? I mean, you guys are all waiters, secretaries, taxi drivers, shit like that. Hey, first of all, those aren't shit jobs. We just like service occupations. It's just something about us, I guess, the Chief said as he tightened some bolts. These fucking Juan fasteners. It's not like we have to fill those jobs, we just like them. Anyone who thinks we are pushovers because of it will get a nasty surprise. More than one visitor to the Republic has had a drink poured over their head or smacked with a tray if they get too pushy, or an entire empire gets punched in the gut if they think they can jerk us around. Weird. You Terrans, I mean humans, have no room to talk about weird. I'm not Terran. I'm an Imperial, Miss Smith said proudly. You're a weeb. Zah. Oops. I almost just threw your micrometer across the hangar. Hey, I didn't mean it like that, Chief Jacqueline said hastily. I was just surprised, that's all. I had no idea Smith was an Imperial. Yep, we sided with the Empire when everything went down. Grandpa was an interpreter and intelligence analyst. What the fuck? He stopped speaking to us when I was just a baby, but Dad said that Gramps was afraid that Sol would plunge right back into hell if the Terrans won. Makes sense, I guess, Chief Jacqueline said, shaking his eye stalks. Takes all kinds, I suppose. Tsunkal walked in with a tray of food and drinks. You two missed lunch. I thought you would like some food, Tsunkal said as he laid the tray on a crate. Not to overhear, but there are humans that are Imperial citizens. Yep, the Chief replied. But you seem not to hate them. She's holding one of my micrometers hostage, so I'm just being nice, the Chief laughed. No, seriously, we don't hate them. We just think they are... Careful, Miss Smith said with a laugh. Different. Let's just go with different and leave it at that. But the Terrans don't hate them even if they betrayed them, Tsunkal said with confusion. They didn't betray us. They sided with the enemy from the start. They were straight-up enemies, not slimy porkies. There is a real difference there. Well, some were enemies. A bunch more jumped ship and immigrated to the Empire after the shooting stopped. A bunch of us Kalesh either sided with the Empire or split after the war was over too. I won't say that any of them, human or Kalesh, are particularly loved, but they are certainly not hated by most people, the Chief explained. Hell, we fought alongside Imperial human ships and ground units during the Great War. Their ships and their infantry kicked some serious ass. I have nothing against them. So we hate porkies and don't hate Imperials. Right. This is getting confusing. Yeah, you might want to start taking notes, the Chief said with a laugh. After a few days, the paper tiger was starting to look like a ship again, and the crew were making preparations to depart. Okay, Kolvachksa, Shelia said as she handed him a tablet. I'm leaving the Class 12 and what's left of the cargo with you, Standard Commission. Pleasure doing business with you as always, Kolvachksa said with a smile. Pass along my thanks to Chief Jacqueline. Miss Smith is, what is your phrase, over the moon, with his gift. It has rarely left her hands. I'll be sure to pass it along, but I think the squeals, tears, and hugs were a dead giveaway. As the Jush were gathering their belongings and loading them into the paper tiger, the crew were approached by two unknown Jush. Shelia looked over at them curiously as she unlatched her sidearm's holster. One of the Jush raised his large manipulator and called out, Hey! Is 8 Eyes over there? 8 Eyes, Shelia responded as Tsunkal stepped forward and waved back. Kolkalkern, great to see you, old friend, Tsunkal called out in return. He turned to Shelia. It's okay, they are friends. Friends or not, how the fuck did they know we were here? Shelia hissed at Tsunkal angrily. Please, our passengers have been sending messages left and right. I saw no issue with sending one of my own, Tsunkal replied dismissively. We are going to have a little chat about this later, she hissed, and then waved happily at the approaching Zhush. Hi there, she exclaimed brightly. I guess you know this criminal? She asked as she hit Tsunkal's backplate. Hard. Shelia, this is Kulkalkern and Zulralshka. They are former associates of mine and are like-minded individuals, if you get my meaning. Oh, really? Shelia asked, her cheerful tone becoming a bit more genuine. Not planning on participating in the hiring frenzy on Sol? Not exactly, Kulkalkern said, rubbing his mandibles in a laugh. Not exactly. It's one of the reasons I sent them here to meet with us, Tsunkal said. They need to know about places like this if they are going to go into business, if you get my meaning. Shelia gave the pair an appraising glance and liked what she saw. Okay, nice to meet you. Now what? Well, Kulkalkern said with an eye flick, we are primarily interested in your drug contacts. It would be a real shame if the drug epidemic facing the Porkies was to dry up, and we are considering expanding our horizons a bit. There are doubtless countless other substances that would harm countless other species and put a few creds on our crystals in the bargain. We would also be interested in getting in direct contact with arms dealers and manufacturers, since it seems that our arrangement is running its course. So you want me to help you be direct competition? Yes, that is exactly what we want, Kulkalkern said with an eye movement that Shelia knew was a grin. Cool, not a problem. Since you had the nerve to ask, I assume my blabbermouth here, Shelia said as she gave Tsunkal another heavy swat, has filled you in on what our real objectives are. He has, and it is exactly what more than a few of us are discussing. Needless to say that there are those of us that aren't exactly happy with the Federation either, and have absolutely no intention of returning to our previous occupations. Making a lot of credits while causing trouble sounds absolutely delightful. We may be able to do business, and I have no problems making a few introductions, she said with a chuckle. But there is one thing you need to remember, she said in a less friendly tone. I have no problem helping you guys out, but if you ever fuck me, she paused while looking them in the eyes, you will wish you were dead. Likewise, Kulkalkern said in an even but menacing tone. Shelia grinned. That's what I like to see. I think we will get along just fine, she said. Jessie came trotting out of the tiger tablet in hand and turned it over to Shelia, who started paging through the contents. Oh, see, you have been a naughty, naughty boy, haven't you? She said with undisguised glee. You too, Z. Very naughty indeed. Okay, you have your credentials in order. You're legit. She handed the tablet back to Jessie. One of the first things you need to learn is how to be just a bit more tidy. They got your genetic info. Hey, Jessie, get a box of Sani Clear, would you? Jessie scampers into and out of the tiger with a box. This, Shelia said as she pulled out an unassuming spray can, is Sani Clear. Its real purpose is medical or hazmat cleaning and sanitation. What we and anyone in the game with a half a brain uses it for is to clean and sanitize other surfaces. It breaks down organic material. Not only does it absolutely kill those annoying microbes, it also denatures whatever identifying genetic codes your species uses. Don't buy it at a store. They will want ID, but it is all over the black market. Buy it. Use it. Oh, and another thing. Actually, you might want to sit down and take some notes because I'm about to lay some knowledge on your asses. After a long and very enlightening lecture from one of the masters of the trade, the Zhush sincerely expressed their thanks and were starting to walk away when Shelia called out to them. Hey dudes, she started. Those friends of yours, any of them hired guns or mercenary teams or anything like that? A few of them match that description, Kulkalkern replied cautiously. Why? We are considering a job that might require a few more guns, Shelia said with a smile. We would be very interested in talking to any guys you know who would be up for some fun, preferably ones that old Eight Eyes over there could vouch for. It should go pretty smooth, but if the shooting starts, there is going to be a lot of it. What sort of job? Piracy, Shelia said with a grin.